everybody, and welcome to the Jane and Craig show, or the Craig and Jane show, or actually it's the Craig and Craig show again, because Jane's not very well today. She's she had some garlic and it upsets her. It's not because of the vampire in her, it's just that she's intolerant to garlic, so she's not been very well. So her apologies for not being able to come on with us today, but she'll be all right. Anyway, welcome to the show. We're going to do things very differently today, actually. We're going to have a little intermission in which we'll be showing you a little bit of Jane and I and a little ghost hunt we did. And afterwards, we're going to have a new sort of system where some of the patrons can come on by video link. So we can ask questions, we can interact, and we can talk about your experiences, because I'd love to hear any experiences that you've had of angels, spirits, or even demons, come to that. So that's the kind of the theme about what we're going to talk about today. So let's say a few hellos. Who's with us today? Ava. Hi there, Ava. Good to see you. Nice you're back online with us. And Steve Murray. Good evening on the beautiful day from Kathy and Steve. Oh yes, Facebook, of course. Jane's watching on Facebook tonight as well, actually. So Ron there. Happy Friday, everyone. Love from Minnesota. We might be able to get a message out from Jane if she's feeling well enough. Hi, Craig. Hope Jane is better soon. Yeah, she's been in the wars. She had a fall a few weeks ago, which she's recovering from, hurt her knee, and now she's got this intolerance. I've noticed we haven't put the lights on in the studio. We've got the main lights on, Willow. So, yeah, Jane will be better soon, I'm sure. Hi, Craig. Groovy time from Atlanta. Oh, yeah. That's it. And hi, Craig. Sorry, Jane is not well, from Cardiff. And I'm just going to quickly do something briefly because it's annoying me a little bit. That's better. We want to do things properly, guys. So this is a bit Heath Robinson today, because we're trying some new stuff. And you know, it's obviously gonna have a little edge to it. But our show does have a few rough edges, and I think it's better that way anyway, isn't it? So, angels, spirits, and demons. What can we say about them? Well, I suppose they're all part of the spirit world, really. I'm not so sure I personally subscribe to all the ideas about angels, because I think a lot of what you see, particularly in the magazines and things, is a bit sentimentalized, isn't it? Really a bit sentimentalized. It's still got this Victorian idea of angels in big long robes with wings, helping the children and helping the pets and the pussycats and things, you know. But they are very much part of history. They predate Christianity, actually. The first in Western references seem to go back to Sumeria, where they had winged beings, you know. And of course, people like von Däniken have thought, well, are these winged beings from outer space? Or are they symbolic? Because I think could they be symbolic of transcendence? A human, a being that can fly. That is surely a symbol of a higher being, so therefore a Godhead type of being. So they go right the way back, you know, they go right the way back, all the way through religion. They were I'll made a note for it. Anunnaki, that's the name from the Sumerian idea of them. In fact, we got quite a lot of our beliefs from Sumeria. Richard Dawkins put a meme up some years ago that the word Easter came from Ishtar, the god Ishtar, the fertility god of Sumeria. But again, that was debated, and that was a bit debunked in some respects. But there was a lot, something that Easter, for example, because we've got Easter coming up soon, Easter comes from the old god of Orster, which was a British god. But, you know, there's debatable. But there certainly is references to flying beings and angels going right the way back. And of course, the actual word angel comes from the Greek. It's the Greek name angelos, which means messenger. So it's a messenger. That was translated from the Hebrew, of course. So that's where we get the actual word angel from, when they translated from the Hebrew. Hi guys, I'm watching you all from my angel bed. Hope you all enjoy the show. Sorry, I can't. So there's Jane for you. So she's there getting better. So hi Jane. Hi Jane from everybody. So going on about angels again, we got the Christian ideas of the angels. They talk about a hierarchy of angels. There are 9 hierarchies of angels. Angels are one of the lower levels, actually, because we start getting archangels and things above them. We got things like, well, actually, these come from an old Judaic tradition rather than Christian tradition, which again has roots right back to the older religions of Babylon and things. But we get things like archangels, cherubim and cherubim, who are the guardians of the throne of God. And also Islam, you know, even has angels, because Islam developed alongside, they wouldn't say they developed out of Judaism, but they took many a similar sort of roots with Abraham and so forth, and Jesus is in the Quran. If you've ever read it, it's worth noting the similarities. But they also have 4 extra angels there, the 4 bearers of Allah, I believe the throne bearers of Allah is 4 extras. But they also recognize the other angels and have other ones themselves, including angels as messengers and angels as forebringers of prophecy and things like that. So when people see angels, what are they seeing? Are they seeing these biblical figures and religious figures, or are we perhaps seeing guardians from the spirit world, our guardians, our beings of light that help mediums? I think more in terms of being like the spirit guides and helpers, maybe higher beings, the enlightened, the gods, you know, just as you could say all the gods of India and all of the religions are perhaps symbolic reversions of higher beings, which we could call angels. We call them gods with a lower G's, but they're still perhaps they're angels, gods. You know, there's one God, but it manifests in many different ways. And then, of course, now we come to spirits, you know, and many of us have seen spirits, and I'd love to hear some of your experiences about this, and we could discuss this. But spirits, I would say, are the people we know that have passed to the afterlife, people that had human birth and continue and give their communications, not angelic messages this time, but spirit messages that can give us an understanding of the spirit world. And, of course, they come through the mediums. And they come through the mediums of what we know from spiritualism. But of course there's mediumship has also been in Tibet, there's mediumship I witnessed in India, and probably all the way through back history there's been mediumistic communications. But it first became recognized in the West really through spiritualism, which challenged the religions a lot. So have you seen a spirit? Have you dreamed of a spirit? Have you had an encounter with an angel? Have you had an encounter with a spirit? And then finally we're going to talk about demons. What on earth are they? Are they thought forms? Because I believe sometimes we can manifest negative thoughts, you know. People have bad thoughts against you and it can kind of jinx you, or it can cause problems in your life and cause difficulties, like a curse. Could that be like a being of some sort? Could it take and manifest a form? Just in the same way I've talked about how you can develop a being through power of thought, like they did with the Philip experiments, if you've ever looked those up, and with the Ouija boards. So we also have this idea of what is that? Is the lower levels. Certainly within most religions they have the heavenly planes, they have the earthly planes, and they have the lower planes. You know, the 3 lokars, you know, that's why we say the Gayatri mantra 3 times, one for the heavens, one for the earth, and one for the lower planes, to help all beings. So maybe there's that. And have you encountered something like that? Have you had a bad experience? So we're going to share those thoughts. We're going to take your questions, and we're going to also bring some video in. But now Willow's going to, in a moment, she's paying attention, is going to put a little video up. The other day, Jane and I were having a bit of a fun day down in Chichester, and I went off to see if I could find any ghosts with my new GoPro. And testing it out, and we came up with something quite interesting. So we're going to have a look at that in a minute, and yeah, let's put it on. Okay, here it comes. Actually, this cathedral, remember, is one of the areas that's supposed to be haunted by the Roman centurions, because they would have built the cathedrals on the most
sacred sites. You know, when you go to places like Bath, they were the old sites of Mithras and things like that. So it adds a kind of a bit of a spooky atmosphere, doesn't it, with that music in the background. Let's go and have another look around the cathedral as it plays. See, told you, built on the old Roman sites. They'd always build the Christian churches on the old Roman remnants. So there, back there was the old floors of the old Roman temples, I expect. Well, that was really interesting, I think. What an atmosphere that created for us there when we went through with all that live choir singing. I'm just looking for more things. Let's follow it round and see where it goes now. Well, to be honest, I didn't see any ghosts of centurions, but I certainly felt an eerie feeling when we went through there. And I think if one had time to sit and contemplate, I think you can get a glimpse of these things, I think, sometimes. You see, for me, when I come to places like this, it's perhaps a bit different for a psychic person than it is for an ordinary person, because a lot of my life I've done what's called psychometry, where you hold objects and you reveal the history of the past. And sometimes that history of the past, you know, and usually with an object you're talking about the owner of the object, but sometimes that history of the past gives you sort of flashes and glimpses, and you get a recall of the past in vivid detail, like a video unfolding. And although I can't claim that's happened today, I think if I was to come here on a quiet time and sit and contemplate and tune in, who knows what you would see. Now, we're now in another area of the cathedral that has a lot of very special significance for me. Behind me there's a sort of a green area, a square area. Now, it might seem odd to you perhaps, but I had a dream. I'm always going about my dreams, but I had a dream of Sathya Baba. And this area behind me here was all being divided up. There were fences going up, and there was all Sai Baba devotees in this holy spot. And they were kind of putting up barriers and walls and things. And I was walking along this actual corridor here, what we're in now, this one, with Sai Baba. It gives me an eerie feeling as I stand here, actually, an eerie feeling. But it was here, I walked along this part, like I'm walking now, I walked along here with Sai Baba, and I looked over the other side, right in this spot, and I said, oh, Swami, what are they doing? Why are they dividing everything up like this? What's going on? And he said, oh, don't worry. When I come back, I'll sort it all out. Nothing to worry about. I'll sort it all out. And I think that was a prophecy, perhaps a reference, certainly something I wasn't thinking about, but a reference to the fact that there were so many divisions happening at that time with the Mudihari, I think it's called, and lots of people sort of having different views about when Sai Baba was going to come back and everything. But for me, that was an important dream. I wrote about it in some of my books. But it was an important dream for me, because not only was it symbolic, but it seemed to suggest that Sathya Sai Baba will indeed come back in the future, and hopefully in the near future, because he said, I'll sort it all out. And it seemed to suggest to me that that would happen sooner rather than later.
The Crypt Cafe. Tea room may close within 1 hour of when you arrive.
Okay, I'm now going to have a little walk around Chichester. I'm going to head for a place called the Buttery Cafe. And this is
right towards South Street.
No, I've got to turn right towards South Street. But apparently the Buttery Cafe is supposed to be one of the haunted places here in Chichester. Legend has it that people feel that their bottoms have been pinched by some mysterious, spooky waitress. Well, let's see if we can find the Buttery Cafe, because that would be a good place to call Jane, have a cup of coffee, and see if she will meet me there. So there it is.
Your destination
Looks nice too. There it is. The Buttery Cafe and tea rooms. Let's go and get a spooky cup of tea. I order a coffee, please. Cappuccino. I was looking out. They said this place is haunted. Is that true? I read it somewhere. No, you don't know. No, you won't want to work here, will you? I've been told it was. I heard about it. Yeah. Okay. Yes. What's going on here? Huh? I'm trying to call Jane. This is me trying to call Jane now. From the Buttery Cafe, where it's supposed to be haunted. Isn't it? Has she got a phone off the hook? But that don't sound like a phone off the hook to me. Hello? Bloody hell, that was weird. I mean, that's not set up. That is weird. We'll try it again. Crikey.
Hello.
Hello, Jane. I just tried to call you, actually. I just tried to call you from this place called the Buttery Cafe, and I got all sorts of weird stuff happen on the phone. Really odd stuff. I just wondered where you want to meet, because it's quite a nice little place. It's an old crypt that I'm in called the Buttery Cafe, getting a cup of coffee. I don't know if you want me to meet you somewhere, or me to find you, or do you want to find me here? Thank you. Hello, do you want to find me here, or shall I come and get you? Oh, can you hear me? Jane, you don't want to go to a crypt. It's a cafe. It's a cafe crypt.
I know, yeah, but we're not there, Craig. We're a long way away from there.
All right, I'll have a cup of coffee. I'll phone you later and see if I can find you then. All right. I tell you, that was very, very weird. That wasn't set up. Honest to God, nothing set up there. I just phoned Jane from... Here she comes. She's calling me again. Hello.
Craig?
Yeah, I was telling you something. It's called the Buttery Cafe. It's called.
All right, we'll find it.
All right.
right.
Okay, I'll tell you about it when you get here. Something odd happened. All right. All right. See you in a minute. Bye. No, seriously, that was seriously weird what happened there, because I didn't set that up. I mean, I don't know what would cause an effect like that. I don't know if you've got any thoughts. I've never had it happen on my phone before. We're in a crypt, and I tried to phone Jane, and all that weird stuff started to happen. So, interesting that we should actually get some strange phenomena on my little journey around, you know. Well, Jane's arrived. They're outside. Hiya.
Hi.
I had a weird experience.
Yeah, you phoned up. It sounded like aliens talking.
Oh, you heard it too?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah,
it was
it was aliens. I heard it.
You heard it?
Yeah.
I mean,
I said, what's going on?
What was that all about? You know, this is the haunted place. I came here because I looked it up, and I looked for those haunted place in
We can't get down there
Chichester.
because of the thing.
There's an old crypt. And when I
Wow,
rang
you're
you,
spooky.
It was like from another planet. I
It
thought
was
you were
really
messing
aliens.
around.
It was spooky. I heard
I've
it.
never heard that before. So I thought, where were you? Were you anywhere odd?
No, we were sitting on a
Just
bench.
nothing noise in the background. Oh, that.
It sounded like aliens. Should have put an order in for
I
a
was
pot
going
of
on
tea.
talking about all this. It's a nice, very nice.
We can't get down.
No,
the
you can't get down the
I'm
steps
up
with the
here. We're
wheelchair.
up here.
But it's worth having a look because all the old vaulted.
Yeah, because later on we went on something proper to eat.
Yeah.
Pieces of cake
That's
and
all
a
right.
proper meal.
But anyway, that was good, wasn't it? Yeah, that was
It's
good.
brilliant.
I thought it was one of your ancestors talking to you in the crypt.
It was really weird. It was
You
really
were
odd.
a bit
I heard
shocked,
it.
Jackie.
Yeah,
You
it was really weird.
I thought there was something wrong with your phone. You go,
I think I caught it all on camera. I hope I did. I'm pretty sure I caught it on camera.
Hi. So, what do you think of that? I thought that was quite interesting. That was. I hope the sound came out for you. Right, it's the first time we tried doing an upload from this computer, so it's quite a lot of going through the internet all at once. So yeah, so that was what was that? A spirit, an angel, a demon? I don't know, or just the phone playing up. Who knows? But if you want to see the whole thing, yeah, I put it up on the Patron channel. There's about half an hour of it all told, but you've got about 10 minutes or so there just for fun. Okay, so we're going to take your questions, both questions that you can type them in, word question in front of it if you can, so we can spot it. Also, your comments. And also, I'd like to share any of the thoughts that any of you might have had with your sort of own experiences of things like this. So perhaps we can pull someone up like Pat or somebody, and we can have a chat. We're going to bring some of the patrons in to chat with us here today. Here we go. Here's Pat. Hi, Pat. Agility Bits. Everybody knows Agility Bits, and people can also ask questions, and we can just comments as we go. You had a few thoughts about this, Pat, I think. Did you? What do you think about the video? Got no volume on you. Unmic. Mute there.
Yeah.
Hello?
Is that okay?
Yep, we
Can
hear
you
you
hear
now.
me? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. In the Christian religion, angels were created by God, and they were supposed to have been created before the world began. But that assumes that people are creationists, and not everybody's a creationist. I know people who've taken orders, holy orders, and they're not creationists. You know, they believe more in the evolutionary side of things. So
Yeah.
when
I would find it very hard, wouldn't you?
Yeah, the world began with the Big Bang, according to physicists, and there was no time before the Big Bang. There was nothing before the Big Bang. There was no God. There were no angels. Nothing. So that's a bit, that's something.
A lot of these things don't fit very well with science.
No, they don't.
Really?
No. But I have actually seen an angel, but it was in meditation. And this angel was, she seemed to be female. I believe they're both male and female, aren't they, angels?
Well, originally they were male. And I think that later on, the idea of having both sex came in later. But then female angels are, of course, in the earlier religions.
Yeah, because in the Bible, they're mentioned 273 times, but only one is ever called an archangel, and that was Archangel Michael. All the others, they simply call them angels. They don't call Gabriel or Raphael. They don't call those archangels in the Bible. They're just angels. But Michael's the only one who's given the title of archangel. And yes, they were all male, but certainly the angel I saw, I'm sure she was an angel. I was in meditation, and I suddenly had the sense of a very powerful being, very tall, but she didn't have wings, but she was very tall, but she wasn't dressed in white. She was dressed in a kind of electric blue. It was the most beautiful blue colour. And she had her back to me. And as I saw her, she turned around. She gave me this it was a wonderful smile that gave me a completely warm glow, as if I was totally protected. And then she just sort of dissolved and moved away. So that I believe that was an angel I was seeing. So I don't know what your thoughts are.
How we define it, isn't it? I think of these as like spirit beings, really, higher spirit beings, because there was so much debate, wasn't there, about angels? How many angels could dance on the head of a pin? They used to argue, I think even today we kind of get carried away with our thoughts about angels, but then at the same time, I do believe it's like you've had there a real experience, something that's come through to you in a dream or in a vision or an experience. I think these things are very real. What do you think, guys? Keep putting your comments below, Willow.
Yeah, because there was one other. Oh, right, you've got a comment come up.
Yeah, let's let comments come up. We can carry. I had an angel with it before my son went into a coma.
Yeah. Okay, you carry on with the Nana.
Dark skinned in this case. So you were seeing a female angel, Pat, weren't you? And she came down through my ceiling and didn't speak, but I understood what she was saying.
Yes, she was very female. Yes, Yes. I mean, I've had one
And I
other
think there's quite sometimes
experience.
the feeling comes of like a telepathic feeling with spirit.
Yes, yeah.
Like
When I was quite young, I
when you
did
go and
have
see
another
Sharavana Baba,
experience
there's that
actually. Yeah.
feeling.
Yes, yeah. I was climbing Snowdon one day, and I got separated from the others who were going up Snowdon with me, and a mist came down, and I got quite scared because I was on my own, and it was very steep, and I know there are steep cliffs on Snowdon, and you know, I was struggling to get out. I thought I'll try and get up to the top because that's where they were going, but I was getting really, really tired, and all of a sudden I felt a hand on my back, and it pushed me all the way up until I got to the top. It was like somebody helping me. So whether that was an angel or whether I don't know what it was. I've always remembered that. It was so strange. It was just that feeling that somebody had their hands at my back and were helping me. And that's when I met my friends who were at the top. Yeah.
Fascinating. I mean, I remember I've been up Snowdon. I could have done with an angel to push me up there. You can get the vernacular sort of train thing up there, but blimey, it is so steep, particularly at the top.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Okay, that's interesting. So keep your comments coming, and we can perhaps see that someone else has got some other video link for us. So thank you, Pat, for that. Alexandra's saying, question, my little cat Gaia passed over a few days ago. I'm still trying to figure out where precious pets go. Please help me out. Well, I think with that one, I would say that all sentient beings continue. All beings that have a sense of self go on. And that would include many of the animals. So I'm not saying that maybe ants have a soul. They probably have, I would say they have a collective soul, just like they have a collective consciousness in the nest. But I think some animals, particularly when they've had human contact, gain a greater sense of self. And from what I understand from mediumship is we get proof of the continuation of personality after death. So cats and animals and pets have kind of had a bit of personality rub off on them, you know. So that must continue. So just as we continue into the spirit world, why shouldn't it be that the pets and the animals also continue into the collective spirit world? You know, it's like just making sure my mic's up a bit higher. I think it's getting a bad connection. And I think it's, you know, often when you get stories of people who've had near-death experiences, you'll often get the idea that they go to the spirit world and the first creature that greets them is their animal, their dog or something, and then they see their parents coming towards them and so forth, running across the fields. I mean, you often get these lovely descriptions. And I'm absolutely convinced that the pets carry on. I'm convinced they do, you know. And when they go, because for some of us, the animals are like children, aren't they? You know. So they're going to continue because love cannot die. And I believe that even the pets can understand love. Say that only human emotions can understand this, we arrogantly say. But no, I think all animals have a sense of sentience so that they know that they exist. They know they have being. They might not be able to think to the level of us, but they still have a sense of I am. And it's not just instinct. I had a dream I entered a room with a lady. Hang on, I had a dream. Hang on, I had a dream. I entered a room and a lady rolling ball blue luminescent clay, and she said to me, scolding, "You are an angel. You don't belong here." That's quite an interesting one too, isn't it? Really, because could it be that something is being told to you that this could be your last time on earth, perhaps, that you're an angelic being, you're not going to come back again, because I think that's what happens. I think we reincarnate, we come back to the earth again, and then what happens is we become angels ourselves. Surely we become beings that don't need to rebirth. So symbolically, perhaps, I don't know what the blue balls would symbolize, but that might symbolize the blue's color of heat, of energy, and healing energy, particularly, isn't it? Could an animal gain lots of reincarnation and eventually become a person? Well, we're on to the idea of what the Greeks called metempsychosis, that we climb up the evolutionary tree, just as our evolved, so our souls evolve through the different animal kingdoms, and that the physical frames of each animal is actually a stepping stone to the next state, the highest of which we know is human. I mean, could be even other planets and other evolutionary steps on the material level. But ultimately, the goal is to escape incarnation on the material plane completely, and then to become beings of light. We've gone beyond human, actually. Although the people that show themselves to us, the spirit forms, are still in a human type form, I think ultimately as we go on to higher levels and onto the higher heavens, we become so immersed in the love of existence and the love of the divinity that ultimately our sense of self, our sense of personality merges back into the cosmos, I think, in a sense of unending love. So yes, I think we do go up a scale personally through the animal kingdom. When my father was palliative, he told me angels were visiting, and I saw them too. I did not. He was not overtly religious, so I do believe they came. He saw they were beautiful. Yeah. Often the most interesting proofs we have, aren't they, come from people who are atheists or complete non-believers. I've seen this happen too. I remember when my granddad died, he said to me, Craig, you must never fear death. You must never fear death. I came out of this hospital and I saw a glorious world, and I walked down the corridors of this corridor and I was free and there was no pain, and it was a beautiful, beautiful thing I saw. Never fear death, Craig, never fear death. And the day after that he died. You know, this is what he was in hospital. And this can be very reassuring for all of us, I think. That, you know, I understand through mediumship, and you get messages from mediums and so forth, but when you've actually get someone really close to you, like you've got, Lita, saying these things, it can be a tremendous gift that can help you to understand the greater purpose of human life. So maybe we could try another video link if we got some there, Matt. I don't know how it's going. Howdy.
I wasn't expecting to be on. But
oh yeah, we pulled you on. Well, I'm going. You're on. Have you had any interesting experiences?
Okay, so many. Like, this is like what you see in films and stuff, and I don't know if I imagined it or anything like that, but it felt really real. I was having a night terror or a nightmare many years ago, and it was a hot day and the window was open, and I actually thought there was a bird in my room, because I actually felt like these wings. I know it sounds strange, like a flap, and then immediately I just felt really well, and the night terror went away, and I opened my eyes and there's absolutely nothing there, but I definitely felt weird, like a wind behind my back. So I don't know what that was. Was it angelic, or was it something that was a good force that was helping me through my night terrors or something?
Yeah, that's interesting. So it came out of a terrifying experience.
Yes, yeah.
And became a wonderful one, from what you're saying.
Yeah, and there was definitely something to do with wings. So I'm not quite sure, but I felt completely at peace afterwards. So maybe something had visited.
Yeah. I think, they say about, I mean, I don't believe in winged beings.
No.
But then they do often show out themselves to us as winged, because I think that shows
safety.
Kind of symbolically of transcendence, doesn't it, really?
Yeah.
I mean, even Carl Jung, the great psychologist, said that he had a spirit guide. He wouldn't have called it a spirit guide. He'd have called it an activated archetype or something like that. But Philemon, who was a winged being, who was kind of a teacher in his dreams, and he wondered if it was a manifestation of his unconscious mind. But he had kingfisher wings, and then he had the dream of Philemon with the kingfisher wings, and the next day found a kingfisher in his when he was having his walk, and he thought, how these strange synchronicities happen, you know. So I think the wings are symbolic, but at the same time can be something that can show, here I am a higher being, you know. You know?
I think animals can be quite representative of angelic form, like little robins or butterflies or something to say, but that could also be our ancestors visiting.
Yeah, because a lot of people get butterflies land on coffins, for example. This has been quite common. Birds knocking on the window at the time of a death. Flocks of birds and all sorts of... So flying creatures generally appear very often at the time of funerals, or in very poignant times associated at the time of death, or when talking about someone who's died, you know. Yeah, fascinating, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. Well, thanks for your input. Looks like we've got some more questions coming up now. 20 years ago, I got lost. A man with the most bluest of eyes helped me and gave me an answer to A to Z map. And I will never forget that. Do you think I encountered an earth angel? Well, they do say, don't they, that angels walk amongst us. And it does make you wonder sometimes, because so many people report these ideas that some spiritual being has kind of stepped into their life and helped them. And there's all sorts of stories, and not just in the West, it's all over the world. You know, when I was in India, there's people that talk about the guru manifests as another being that helps you, or a high spiritual god or goddess has helped you. So it's all everywhere. This is endemic in all cultures, and it makes you wonder. I think perhaps somebody did help you. Who knows? There's many, many mysterious stories like this, and I find them very, very fascinating. Yeah. And thank you, Jessica. That's an interesting question. Doobie. See, if I got Jade here, I could have a chat. We could. Hi, Jade. How you doing at home? We got Willow on the questions, and we could bring a video up if one of you guys want to. Oh, here we go. Frank Quinn, question: do you think spirits manifest themselves on a personal level to each person that witnesses them? So, what do you mean by that? Do you think spirits manifest themselves on a personal level to each person? So you're saying that, do they kind of show themselves in a form that you expect? Because I think when we see our spirit guides, for example, we see reflections of things that feel right to us, and they show themselves in a form that we can recognize. So I don't think, for example, if you've got, for example, an American Indian spirit guide, right? And I've got a number of people that come to me through spiritualism, and it's very strong sometimes. Does that mean that person really was an Indian, or are they showing themselves in a form that I can recognize that person? So they're a being of light that is manifest in a form that I can understand. So in a way, that is a personal manifestation, as I would understand it. And similarly, I've got another guide that manifests to me and shows himself as a clown. Real funny with big boots and all sorts of things like this. And always finds the stories in the audience funny, but particularly anything with false teeth. When I feel him with me, I start giving false teeth evidence, stories about the teeth weren't missing on the time of the funeral, and you were carrying the false teeth in your bag when you went there, and another one with the lady in the spirit cut the cake with her false teeth, and we even had one talking about a dog that had a false tooth put in or something. So they manifest in a form that I can understand, and that I've got my funny spirit guide with me. Or do higher beings take on an astral shell, which is another way of understanding it, that we leave behind us a kind of walking ghost, an empty shell, that the spirit leaves the body, it leaves the kind of the bodily etheric body behind, which is almost a suit that the spirit can put on. And this is why some people say, oh, you know, it's evil spirits pretending to be the person you love because they put on the astral shell. So I don't really hold with that. You know, because they manifest with love and they manifest with all the things you understand. This is what some of the Christians that are anti it call familiar spirits. So that's a load of nonsense in my book, because it's been proven over and over again that it's a real manifestation. So can you feel dark energy as an atmosphere, or it is just something natural? Well, I think there are places that have dark energy. I mean, certain people have dark energy. You know, certain people I've met and know sometimes radiate a sort of negativity, full of jealousies or hatred, for example, or depression. You know, these manifest energy. And I think places can hold this energy. This is what happens when we get haunted houses and things like this. And I certainly know that when you do psychometry and you hold an object and you talk about who owned that object, it's something about that personality of that person is rubbed off. In fact, the whole memory is rubbed off on it. And I think it connects us also into the memory of the universe, you know. And then places also do have energy. There's a thing called, what they've sort of labelled as geopathic stress. I don't know if you've heard of that. That certain places have earth energy to them that are positive and some are negative. And that, you know, if our house is built on an area that has bad negative geopathic stress, which is something about the energy that's radiating from the earth itself and is affected by underground streams and things like this as well, they think, that this can have a negative effect of people. And the earth itself has an energy, some people have called it Gaia, like the consciousness of the earth, and that these manifest in lines, what they call ley lines. And that places like the Great Pyramid, for example, are built not only geographically on important places, but energetic crossing points. And that, like the cathedral you saw me go to, is built on a ley line, as is the one here in Winchester, as is Stonehenge. And you can draw these and find straight lines between them. And two crossing points of two lines create a node, which can often create a negative energy area. And for example, the famous haunted house at Enfield, I had to think for a minute, the Enfield ghost, they reckon was at a crossing point of two major ley lines. So yes, dark energy, light energy, and also sometimes just confused energy or just powerful energy can manifest in certain places. So it's something natural, but it's also linked to the supernatural world as well, I suppose. Marion saying, Craig, yesterday I was dreaming and I felt an arm was hugging me. The hand was the hand of my grandfather. There was no body. What is your take on this? Yeah, quite often people talk about being kind of hugged or feel the person they love next to them in bed. I remember Jane would have told this one better, but Jane's mum was staying with us and she kept saying that the bedclothes were being pulled back and she felt that her husband Ron was there in the spirit and was pulling the bedclothes back, and she was quite frightened by it actually, because it was so noticeable, you know. It wasn't just falling off the bed, it was being pulled away from her. And many people feel the touch of spirit, don't they? You know, I mean, because when the spirit connect with us, they're trying to connect through our minds. When I connect to spirit, I see them in my mind, and I get a feeling, and I get a feeling of their personality and what they might say and things like that. But the spirit try to use all our senses. This is why sometimes we hear them, what we call clairaudience, and clairsentience, when we kind of feel their physical presence. Like me and Jane will feel clairsentience when we're making a communication, and we're trying to describe how the person died. We might feel a pressure on our chest and they had a heart attack and went quickly. We might feel a feeling of being depleted and we've gone through all our body with cancer or something. But even to the point where the spirit just touches your cheek or is tactile in some way, particularly if the spirit was a tactile person in life, we will feel them in that way. So, yeah, I wouldn't say, Marianne, that it was something unusual. I think it perhaps very much could be the spirit world connecting with you. They connect with us all in different ways. As a medium, can you actually see spirit, or is it only in your mind's eye? Well, it works both ways. Most of the time when I'm doing a reading for somebody, and even when I'm working on the platform or a stage or something, I'm seeing it inwardly, because I'm working from my inner view. So their thoughts are blending with my thoughts, and I'm trying to then relay what's being said, relay the information I'm getting. I almost feel like I am that person. That's how I work. But then sometimes we get what we call objective clairvoyance, in which you see the spirit objectively. So when you're working from the stage, for example, and you're trying to find who the message is for, you'll often see a light over a person's head, or a light move across the audience, and you know that's the person you've got to be with. You've got to say 3 rows back, just 4 lines in, I can see a light over you, a blue light. Is this message for you? And then that's how the spirit will direct us there. But they don't usually sort of walk around the audience, because that would kind of be a waste of energy. They have to try to get the message through directly to you, and that way you can get as much information as possible through to give proof of the person. But then, of course, sometimes in a circle setting, and in particularly what we call physical mediumship, the actual energy in the room builds up to see the spirit gradually manifest. Sometimes it can appear as a sort of a face that appears over your own. And sometimes it actually forms into what they call ectoplasm, which I'm sure you've heard if you've watched Ghostbusters and things. But it's actual physical material made out of kind of etheric energy. But I've seen it as sort of like an energetic form, and a sort of energy comes over the face like a veil. But in some of the early spiritualist circles, some of which were debunked, we have to say, there were some that I don't think were right, but from what I've seen, I think when you've examined the evidence, it does sound like there were real physical manifestations where you could actually hold the person, you know. And whether this is someone walking around pretending to be somebody is of course questionable, but then I've spoken to people who've seen that happen, and then the person just dissolves, just falls into a steam. So whether this was trickery or whether it's real, I mean, Jane and I went to see some real physical mediumship, and as far as I was concerned, it was an absolute load of codswallop, because the person was cheating, and I could tell how they were doing it. I could see what they were doing, and of course, when people do that, it destroys all the good work that every spiritualist has ever done. And all those times I've struggled to give a message and give it truly, completely wiped away by the skeptics, because understandably they say, well, it's a load of codswallop, look what these guys have been doing with sheets. So but it can appear as a physical form. Sorry, I've gone on. Carol, question: I see a blue orb light very often, especially in times of stress. Is this a guide? Sorry, a message comes up over the screen, I couldn't read it properly. Yeah, Jane and I often see an orange light, actually. We had both as children saw orange sort of orbs that followed us around, and I don't know what that was. And so we've certainly had that. And what do you mean by an orb? Often it can be seen by more than one person. Like Jane and I have had a light appear in the room. I've mentioned this before. A brilliant light that came into the line and floated around the room, and we both saw it simultaneously. It was shocking. This wasn't just an optical effect or anything like that. I mean, of course, then you also do get optical effects. I mean, I've seen people talk about those sort of floater things you see on your eyes as being spirits, and I thought, crikey, that's cellular debris in the eye. I've also obviously seen people who have had known optical effects like a torn retina that can make it seem like a door's opened, because as the retina falls it creates a black space, which I think is a vortex. So these things can be mistaken. Also, if the eye is hit, it will literally, you will see stars, and if you've ever been hit and seen stars, they are bright lights that look like spirit. So we've got to be careful, and the after images that can form on the light. But putting all that aside, we do sometimes see lights that cannot be explained by any optical thing, and when two people see it together, or three or more, like the angel of Mons was seen by many people, for example, then you've got a question. This can't be my imagination, unless we've got some collective hysteria. But I don't think me and Jane were having collective hysteria. It was what was that? You know, and when you've seen it, nothing to convince you otherwise that, you know, these things are possible. So there you go. It's not stress. Jessica saying, what does it mean to dream of text messages? I dreamed I saw one with "You are everything you see in August. See you in August. You are everything. See you in August." I've dreamed of August twice. Well, that sounds to me a bit more symbolic, actually, Jessica, because what I think we're getting here, often things like phone calls, for example, before text messages come along, we used to say that dream of a phone call is like a message. And it's a message from where? Usually from your unconscious mind. So it's your unconscious mind saying, look, you're not paying attention to this. This is a part of your personality that you're not aware of. Or this is something you've been thinking about but you're not prepared to face up to. So it's a communication from the hidden part of yourself to the conscious part of yourself. It's trying to make you aware of something you should be thinking about in your psychology or in your thoughts about life and so forth. And August is perhaps the time when we move towards winter, so it's the latter part of your life. So perhaps it's a dream about the latter part of your life. You know, the thinking about, because in our dreams we think about death and we think about the things we don't think about in life. You know, in conscious life we don't like to think about dying, for example. So on our dreams we'll often address these questions. Doesn't mean you say the dreams are prophecies that you're going to die or anything, but many dreams are about death, for example, and many dreams are about burial and funerals and things, because we're thinking about the shortness of our life. We're thinking about what happens when it all ends, and these are often messages that we're given that help us to live better. They're not prophecies, but they are. Perhaps there's something element of that about thinking about the seasons of our life, getting older as we come into our winter years, as I am slowly. A very long winter. Alexandra saying, when I came to California from London, there was a time when I experienced an extremely evil energy and I heard devil music. I prayed to my deceased father for help. Then I have two viv. I don't know what the last bit's about. Two. I expect there's a bit. You couldn't get it all on. You'd have to become a patron and come on and describe on video, Alexandra. You always give good questions too. Yeah, sometimes we do get things like this. You know, what was that in that little film clip? Was that a bit of weird evil energy or something? I've seen people and had feelings from people that have been very dark. I've mentioned it before about some of these holy men, as it were, who've taken the Agori Yogi path in India, and a weird energy to the one I met, you know, and it kind of feels manifest as well. So I think there are dark things around, but we don't need to fear, because darkness cannot penetrate light. And if you're walking a path of light, and if you're cheerful and happy often of the time, it's even the people with negative thoughts towards you have hard time hurting you with it, you know. But you can hurt someone with a thought. This is what magic's all about, or dark magic's about, you know, about trying to send a nasty thought to someone. And some people do it naturally. I know some people are very good at sending out bad thoughts. They're just naturals. But the way to protect yourself is to be a being of light. Know that you're a being of light, and know that none of it can hurt you. And if you're uncertain, like you did, Alexandra, call upon those in the spirit that love you, because they'll always be there as your protectors. And they will never let anything get through to you, and anything negative, you know. So we're safe in this life. We don't have to worry. I've been to some pretty dark places, and so-called haunted places, you know. Hi! We pulled you on! What, me? You had your video on!
I don't know. I was in my own head then. I was listening, but I was in my own head.
You should be aware that we can put you in at any minute.
I'm here now. I'm here.
So, have you had, excuse me for my cough again here.
Yeah.
Any interesting experiences?
Ooh, I've had lots and lots and lots.
I know you have.
Yeah.
You told me about them in the past, some of them.
Yeah. I think one of the most interesting ones was that after my father passed, probably about 15 years ago, I went to stay with my mother, you know, to keep her company immediately after his death. And my mother and I both saw proper orbs in his bedroom, just like balls of light, but they were light, they weren't coloured. They were like light orbs. And I pointed it out to my mother. Because she was in grief, I was just sharing the bed with her, and the orb started in the corner of the room, and it started to move around, and I stayed with her all week. And then more came, and they were just moving about the room in all different directions. It was just amazing. It felt to me like it was, I'd had many discussions with my father when he was alive about death, and he was always an atheist and didn't believe anything, you know, that there was any form of spirit. He thought when you died you were dead, and that was it. But I did always say to him, well, if, you know, I'm right and you're wrong, come and prove it to me. And so, I mean, that week it was just incredible, you know, these orbs. It only lasted for a week and then it stopped.
But you had a week, only a week. And so describe them a little bit. Were they kind of little lights, sparkly things?
Round light. I tried to explain the size, like a ball, small ball, like a ping pong ball size, maybe slightly bigger. And they would move very fast, and they wouldn't just move up the walls, they'd move across the room. So you could see them actually moving, and they would move quite fast. And like I said, it started with one orb on the first day, and then I think probably a couple of days later, I'd just gone out from the bedroom to the bathroom. I came back in, and there was a line of them all moving and dancing, and it was my birthday the next day, and I was going to Ireland to visit a place that my dad had always said, this is where my family are from. And we'd always said we'd go, and it never happened, and he died. And then my mother had said to me, can you sort of organise it so that we can go? And so whether, I don't know, it was connected to my birthday or whether we were going to this place, I don't know. But it was incredible.
Well, it links with the birthday, I'm sure, as well. But this is just after your father died, was it?
Pardon?
Did you say it was in the first 2 weeks after your father?
It was not. The first orb, yeah, I saw it, and then again, it was a bit later, a week or so later. I'm just trying to remember exactly. It was a week or two later that we.
But still in the time of the bereavement period of your father, really, isn't it? Yeah. And your mother saw it the same time as you.
She saw it. She didn't see. She saw the first orb with me the first time in the corner of the room. But then I was sleeping in a different room, and the first orb was in my mother's room, and then when I saw the numerous orbs, that's when I was in the other room. So.
So it was floating in the room, not on the wall, not a reflection, because people are, I'm just devil's advocate here for a minute, but it was actually in the room as something moving across the room.
Yeah, first time I saw it was on the wall and it was moving at the wall, and then it started to move across the room. Yes.
Okay, so it couldn't have been anything, it couldn't be lights or anything, it was, you both seeing something that was,
yes,
you know, self-luminous.
Self-luminous, yeah.
Yeah.
The curtains were all closed and I was sort of checking if there was lights outside, and I couldn't see where it came from. It was the movement of them. That's the thing. It was the movement of the lights.
Yeah, fascinating.
Yeah,
they call these spirit lights. And I know from what you said to me in the past, you've also been to physical mediumship.
Yeah, I've seen it through physical mediumship. I've seen tables moving by themselves across the room. I have seen a spirit hand form, and it was touching people's needs in the seance room.
And that when you say that, it was just on its own. It was.
The hand was on its own. It wasn't attached to a body.
And what did it look like? Was it luminous or was it?
Like light. It wasn't. It didn't look like totally solid.
So you could see through it partly.
Yeah, it looked like a proper hand, but it was light. It wasn't. But when it touched you, you could feel it, as it touched your knee. It went around the seance room and touched everybody's knees. And
wow.
It was like a proper physical touch.
Wow. And I mean, just playing devil's advocate again. It could not be somebody walking around the room wearing black and their hand painted. Did it do anything that could be so unusual that a person couldn't have been able to do that? Like,
I'm all the time. Although yes, I'm a firm believer in spirit and everything. I'm always looking skeptically at what's possible, and I'm looking round, and I could not possibly see how it could have been fake. I mean, I can't know for absolutely certain, can I? But from what I could see, I don't know how the hand could have looked like it did and be fake. Mm-hmm. Because I don't know how they could have made something look like that and be fake.
Yeah. I would have been like to have been able to hold it and sort of turn it round or something, so you know it's it's on its own. But I know that in spiritualism they've had hands go into wax, haven't they? And they made wax molds, and they check the fingerprints and things like this. And fascinating. So
and I've heard voice moving from areas of the room, spirit voice. Heard that coming from the same voice coming from different areas of the room. So it'd start there, then it'd start there, and it would move around the room. Again, you could say that could be microphones, you could say.
But this used to happen in the times before the times of microphones, didn't it?
Yeah,
lots of famous mediums.
I mean, to me, it was real. For me, it's a real experience. I can't say absolutely, because I'm only one person with my own perspective. But for me, it was very real.
Yeah.
And I couldn't see how these tables could move across the room. And they had things like hoops on the walls. And the hoops would come off the walls and spin.
The thing that now, though, what they're doing, which I think is quite important, is because we can do night cameras.
Yeah.
We can cameras that can film in pitch black.
Yeah.
That's when we're going to get real proof, really, isn't it? Because once they start doing this, we can see that there's nothing set up. Unfortunately, I had some very bad experiences of it, which put me off, unfortunately, as I've spoken to you about it.
With me. You shared one with me. Terrible.
I think, didn't you, I'm not mentioning any names, but I think you went to see the same one that Jane and I saw that brought through Louis Armstrong and all that silliness. Yeah, you did. Oh, yeah. That was one. I saw a couple, but that one.
Oh, yeah, terrible, yeah.
Absolutely laughable.
These other experiences were just totally different, totally. And I've seen like messages being written on a board as well, chalk being written on a board. Yeah. I know it sounds so ridiculous. When you say it, I'm thinking to myself, it just sounds ridiculous.
It sounds crackpot, doesn't it? But I know this is common. This has been, yeah. They used to have slate writing happen a lot in the early days of spiritualism. And of course, we do have to take a skeptical mind to it. I mean, in the past, we had Houdini trying to tear it all apart, and then we had Arthur Conan Doyle fighting for it, and then a few embarrassing things such as the Cottingley fairies and things.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean to say, because there are fake stuff, there is fake stuff out there, that it's all that way. Yeah. We've got to find the pearls amongst this, and when you do spot it, then it's something wonderful. It's like the Nardis. There's a lot of cons out there, and you've got to find the right one.
Yeah.
And mediums too. You know, you've got to find your way.
I'm sure there was lots of truth in what I saw for me, because I always really test it out with my head inside. I just so hope it was true.
That's the problem. We mustn't be dying to believe. I know. Susan Blackmore said. Yeah. This is why it's very. Thank you for sharing that, Heather, because it's very personal experiences too when you do that, when you talk about those sort of things. And I know it's so easy for people to pick holes in it, but when you see it, it's like mediumship. When you get real proof, you think it changes your life. You know, when I've watched people like Doris Stokes, and when I was first learning, when I met Gordon Higginson giving his messages and things, I thought, wow, this is real. And then my journey began and ended up learning that I could do it too. But you have to also be sensible about these things, don't you? You have to question, and I think it's much more healthy to be skeptical than be someone that just believes everything as well. That's why I think someone like Richard Dawkins, people go, oh, he's a terrible man, but I think actually he's a very spiritual man, really, because he's really genuinely trying to seek, I think. but you have to have the right attitude, and then when you get the proof, then your life will turn around, and that's happened to many scientists actually in the history of spiritualism. Okay, any other questions, or how we do it? Oh, we've gone on. We're finished on time. Well, it looks like we're over, and I'd like to say big thank you to all of you that have come in and been prepared to put your mugshot on screen. And thank you for supporting us, and thank you for those that have been patrons. If you want to become a patron, it's all in the description below, and you can come and join us on screen as well if you want in the future. And I'd really like to know how you all got on with this. Do you like this new format? Do you like this idea of having a little video in the middle? What's your thoughts about that too? Have you got any comments about that? What do you think about those strange sounds? What were they? And what do you think about this idea of having your questions and also having the video links? So put your comments, please. And if you're here for the first time, become a subscriber so that you can watch these every week, and with Jane as well, of course. So see you soon. Thank you for joining us. Bye for now.